Hello class, it's Dr. Russell here with an introduction to Darwin's Origin of Species. So we see here the assignment, uh, what we're reading for by Thursday here. So introduction, chapter 1 and chapter 3 and part of chapter 4 before you move on to the next part. So we'll read introduction, chapter 1, 3, 4, 6, 13, and the conclusion over the 2 week period here. So we'll talk about the introduction, chapter 1, 3, and 4 today. And then you want to post a three-part commentary covering these chapters, right? So I've given you some prompts to think about for all of that material. Let's go over some of the other material that I've put here. So I've put up two graphic texts. Let's take a look at those. Uh, Introducing Darwin with this cartoon-like mechanism is actually pretty good. Has a lot of good art in it and graphics, so I'd recommend it. Nice little shortcut. Um, and then another one to look at here is the graphics philosophy of science. So philosophy of science is the critique of science on a philosophical level and on political levels. So this text is pretty good. I'll cover some of the philosophy of science aspects, but this text is pretty good, especially if you want to get into the post-colonial critique of science. So this is the non-Western world's critique of science. Science as a colonizing mechanism and a violent mechanism. This is often seen in our country most through Native American critiques of science, but it's pretty. The critique of science is on a lot of people's minds and concerns a lot of people. So, that's definitely part of what we're doing with Darwin here in the Origin of Species. So let's take a look at some reading interventions. Why are we reading Darwin's Origin of Species in IH? For the origins and discourses and debates of science. Why read Origin of Species at all? Well, it's a good text for taking our pulse not only with science, but the problems of modernity, the problems of living in a scientific culture, which has a philosophy of evolution. I think a good thing to do is to, in terms of before you read Darwin or any science text, is to consider what your thought image is, your of science or the scientist or Darwin or terms like struggle for existence or natural selection and evolution. What are the images in your head before you read?